Hello everyone, good morning. Thank you all for coming here. I know it's summer holidays going on. I mean, the reason for arranging the session on a weekday at such a odd time is because she was here. I mean, I'll introduce her. She was here and traveling to India, so I didn't want to miss the opportunity for our students to interact with her. So, to give a brief introduction about Ilaria, how we know each other is we were together at IIM Ahmedabad. We were pursuing MBA together. I could have done the session from myself as well, that I could have shared my experiences from MBA, but वो ना घर का डॉक्टर काम का नहीं होता है, right? घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर. So I wanted someone to come in and share the experiences as well as share the experience of being an exchange student or international student. So she took her admission to Bocconi University, Italy for MBA. It's usually called an international management program. And for the exchange program, student exchange program, she came to complete a dual degree in MBA at IIM Ahmedabad, Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. And that's where we met. We also did an internship together in Dubai, and that's how we know each other. She has worked across various companies like consulting, a startup, a food delivery startup, last mile logistics startup, and currently she is working at a company called Petronas. Okay, so let's give a round of applause and welcome Ilaria Borzuni. Yeah, so this is a small.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Okay, so how we will conduct the session just the way we had it last time. That I'll be asking a few questions on your behalf, okay? And after that, if you guys have any follow-up questions or anything you guys wanna ask, feel free to ask, okay? It could be about studying in foreign country. It could be about monetary benefit. It could be about her experiences. Anything. Let's keep it very casual, as informal as possible, okay? So I actually sent her the questionnaire. So she said most of these questions are looking from any interview that when you appear for a job and they ask you the questions. Okay. I hope everyone is comfortable with English, right? Yeah. So shall we start, Ila?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first question is, can you tell us about like your background, where you are from, your family, your education, etc.
Yes. So I'm coming from a very beautiful country, which is Italy, as you can imagine. Nice food, nice landscape. And I'm coming from a city which is called Turin. It's famous for football club there, if somebody follows Juventus. I'm an only child, and my family is, my mom is a housewife, while my dad works in recycle industry for garbage and this kind of industry. I did science high school, so our system is very different than what it's here, but I studied science in high school. And then when it came to university, I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do, because actually in Italy there is not real a system that supports you in choosing your career path. So it's something that I see that here you have, while we did not have. I just knew that I liked to study economics, understanding inflation, and all this kind of concept that somebody introduced me at school, and so I decided to go with economics. So my bachelor was in public university in management. For us it's 3 years plus 2 as university background, and there, so I studied in my hometown, which is a good university, but I was aiming for more. That's why already while I was in my bachelor, I decided to do an exchange program in Finland, which is North Europe. And it was my first time outside my home. I was missing my mom, and it was really the first time I was struggling to understand how to live abroad. But then I really loved the experience, And that's why I've decided to apply for my master program in Bocconi. Bocconi is a university like IIM Ahmedabad, so a very good college in Italy, probably the best one for management. And I have to went through a selection also there. It was very challenging because out of 100 people, only 20% of students were coming from Italian background, and all the other were international or already studied in Bocconi in the past. So it was very challenging. The test was nothing like the one that we have here. It was tailor-made by the university, but I've been lucky enough to enter. So I started in 2015, and I just spent there actually 9 months in Milan, because I've been selected for this double degree program that Sumit was talking about. It is a very prestigious program that we have, because it allowed us to spend 1 year in one university, 1 year in another university, and you graduate from both universities. So I've been lucky enough to get my graduation both in Bocconi and the MBA from Ahmedabad. So then left, yes, I left to India, and
Okay. Okay.
that's the
Thanks,
base.
Hilaria. I mean, for those who missed, I'll just revise a few things because there is a bit of dialect and
Yeah,
accent. If you
I'm
guys
sorry.
won't understand, do let me know. I can revise. So she did her education from Bocconi University, and there is a prestigious program between two universities. So how it works is, for UG as well as post graduation, there are many colleges those who have tie up with the foreign universities, wherein without sacrificing your academic year, you can go there and complete one of the year at that university, and you end up getting both the degrees. So she has a MBA degree from IIM Ahmedabad as well as Bocconi University. Many of the students from IIM Ahmedabad also goes to Bocconi University in exchange for her seat. So some of those students come here, some of these students go there, and they complete the education, and they get degree from both the places. Okay, they get the international exposure as well, and they get the perks and benefit of both the universities. They are regarded as alumni of both the universities, and that's how she did her MBA. And just the way we have, I mean, I'm sure the competition to get into Bocconi from Italy probably is not that intense the way we have here to get into JEE, NEET, CET, NDA, etc. But that is there.
But I have to study more. I just want to say that all the other students, because 2 degrees means double the exams that normal students do. That's the difference.
Yeah, it goes without saying. I mean, you don't get the perks unless you put in the efforts.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That's generalized in our day-to-day life as well. It's not necessarily in education. जब तक काम नहीं मिलोगे फल नहीं मिल सकता है. So the next one I would like to ask is, how was your experience as an international student when you came to India?
I think that it was very difficult, the approach that Indians have to work. I mean, life in India was not easy for me, because, as you can imagine, food was different, temperature was very high, so the context was very difficult for me. But also the studies, the way in which we study was very different, because in Italy we tend to have books, study, memorize what we have there, and then we have an exams with either open questions or multiple choice questions, but there were no project at all. While I came to Ahmedabad, and it was more about working in a group and projects. So it was very difficult for me to understand how to keep up with this process, and to understand also how to interact with many engineers which were different from my background. So I think that the most difficult part in terms of studies was understanding how to manage all these differences, also in terms of culture, because the way in which I behave in front of a questions, in front of a deadline, are very different from what is done here. So I needed to understand that, for example, Indians do things last minute. The deadline is nothing for them, While I was used to work very early, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in advance to my deadline. So it was very difficult to adjust, and also because I was surrounded by very smart people, and at sometimes I also felt intimidated by their knowledge. But then I understood that probably what I was bringing was something different. So they were very good with maths and all the problems, theoretical things, but maybe I could help them more on soft skills or like some other elements that was coming from my background. I think that was very a turning point for me in my experience in India when I understand how to merge the two things, like to understand that you have to understand the context, understand what you can bring in that context, and understand how to merge these two experiences together.
Thanks, Ila. I'd like to add a few things there. What happens in MBA is, I'm sure probably all of you might not have thought about pursuing MBA. That's perfectly fine. We have gathered here to just get the information, just get the feel about it. How it works is there is a in general concept of GEM called GEM, General Engineer Male. Okay, the percentage of these kind of candidates who is doing MBA is a lot. You might be thinking that only people with engineering or people who have done BBA go for MBA. It's not like that. In our class, there were few doctors who have done MBBS. There were few BSc zoology people. There were few lawyers. There were few CAs. There were people from commerce background. There were people from biology background and whatnot. What happens is this brings a lot of diversity in the classroom, because when you are conducting a business, it is not essentially about that particular domain. It's always cross cultural, right? Because all the businesses, say if there is a pharma business, you are manufacturing medicines and you are selling, so there is marketing involved, there is accounts involved, there is sales involved, there is logistics involved, there is manufacturing involved, there is supply chain management involved. So all the specializations are there. So this diversity helps understand and study those aspects really well, right? And when international students also come into that classroom, it also gives it a very good perspective from the international point of view. So what Eli is saying here is, when she came into these classes, it really helped her broaden her perspective. Also, she brought some extra things to the table about from her previous experiences, and collaboratively all these students in a class, they could do good projects. They could kind of mimic the way how things happen in a business in the MBA class itself. That gave a very good perspective. I like to quote a few examples here that one of the alumni from IIM Ahmedabad is Kiran Mazumdar Shaw. Her background is from biology, botany, basically pharma. So she did her management studies from IIM Ahmedabad. She is a billionaire and she is CEO and MD of Biocon, one of the largest pharma industry in India, right? That is just to give you an idea about how someone coming from the pharma background pursuing MBA can go up the corporate ladder. Okay. So coming to the next question, Ila, can you tell us about your work, like which all companies you have worked, in what all capacities you have worked, and how was that experience?
Yes, so I start directly from a permanent job or internship as well.
Internship as well.
Okay. So while I was here in India, I got the chance to take part to the what is the name of campus? The campus selection.
Placement
the
process.
placement, yes.
Placements, yes.
So there is a moment of the year in which in university all prestigious companies comes to campus for internships. So you have to apply and find an internship to pursue during your MBA there. So I was lucky enough to being able to participate and take part to the placement in Ahmedabad, because I know how prestigious it was. I've been lucky to actually take an internship with Sumit here. So I found an internship in Dunya Finance in Dubai, which I was basically handling a project in marketing area to understand the brand perception. So how this company was perceived with their customers. I was very happy that I found a job outside India, but I was also sad because I wanted to do an internship in India as well. So I was supposed to start in May in Dubai. I had 3 months gap, and then decided to find an internship here. So I found indeed in a private equity firm in Bombay a 3 months internship in understanding, supporting one of their clients in developing his business. So I was having business development. So I did 3 months in Dubai, in Bombay. Then I directly moved to Dubai to this internship, and that was the end of my entire year abroad. It was very difficult, so I decided that I didn't want to leave Italy for a while, and that's why I started to find a job in Italy at the beginning. So I started my career actually in consulting. I've been working in consulting for 4 years, in particular in two different firms. One is called Arthur D. Little, which is not so famous here in India, but it's the eldest consulting firm. And there I was mostly working in projects in energy and telecommunication. I also took a long project of 5 months in Saudi Arabia, so I had to experience also that kind of different environment. Then I shifted to Oliver Wyman, which is a very prestigious one, where I mostly handled financial projects there. They are famous for this industry. The point in Oliver Wyman was that I entered while COVID hit in Italy. So I had to manage a new job while working from home, and it was very difficult to create the kind of engagement that you need with your colleagues and so on. I was working a lot, and I missed the purpose of it because I was working from home and I was not able to understand why I was working so much. And especially I was missing one key point of consulting, that you do a project, but often you don't see the implementation of your project. So I was really wanted to see the process from its beginning to its end. And that's why I decided to take a leap of faith, and I actually entered into a startup. It's a last mile, very famous startup in Europe. It's called Globo. They are a Spain-based company. Actually, I only worked there for 3 months because the company had some financial issues in Italy. They were struggling, and so they actually left me at home. But I'm telling you this because it was actually a great experience for me. Besides, I felt somehow I failed in my professional life because I have been left at home. I also understood that was a way in which I could grow, because I in a way understood that for me, startup world might not be the best one for me, and I've learned something that I don't like, that to find a new job that I like. And that's what I did. So now I'm working for one of the company of Petronas lubricants. They are based in Malaysia, and I've been working there only for 6 months. Actually, my probation period has finished yesterday, so they let me come to India for vacation, so I guess I passed it. And it's very good because now I'm doing strategy, but for the firm. So I'm managing transformation project, not only digital as Sumit was asking me, so there is a part of digital, but I'm handling some projects which are cross-functional in the company. So people sometimes struggle from different functions to communicate together. So my role is to put people together, sit together to understand where problems are in the company, and trying to work together to solve all of these problems. And I think it was a great experience for me, all these changes in career and all these failing somehow, because it helps me to understand what I wanted in life. So, I mean, at the beginning it was very difficult for me to tell my friends that a company left me at home, that I've been fired and so on. But then I understood that from failing, good things may come, because from the job that I'm doing now, I'm very happy. I'm happy with my life, I'm happy with my work-life balance, and I'm happy with my colleagues and jobs that I do. So don't be afraid of failing. That could be a message that comes.
Thanks, Gila. That's a great message, that never be afraid of failing. I mean, even if you get less marks, don't get demoralized. It's just part and parcel of the life. Just one thing to highlight, I mean, throughout her journey, Ila mentioned about three different roles. So I'd like to explain, shed some light on that. One, she talked about brand perception. Okay, so this is in general a marketing sales role. I'll tell you examples from your day-to-day life. So if you know men's wear, there are brands like Peter England, Alan Sully, and Van Heusen. You guys know about this, right? So what is the perception कि हाँ Peter England it's थोड़ा 1,000 rupees range, Alan Sully is around 1,500, Van Heusen is around 2,000 rupees range, right? It's the premiumness increases, the rate increases as per the brand. But do you guys know that all three brands are owned by the same company? That is Aditya Birla. Although the name says Peter England, it's an Indian brand. Although the name says Alan Sully or Van Heusen, these are all Indian brands, right? So brand perception works in a way how you pursue a brand to be like, okay, and that's how it is. So she was working in a role where she was working on how a customer perceives that brand is to be and how we can improvise the brand recognition, etc. The second one thing she mentioned about is the consulting role. See, what happens is if you guys need help with your studies, you come to Acharya Academy to get the career guidance, to get the help in your studies, physics, chemistry, maths, bio, etc. If there are big companies, say like Reliance, Tata, Birla, etc., if they need help, where do they go to? They go to various consulting companies like McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, Bain, Arthur D. Little, where she was working, Oliver Wyman. These are the big consulting names, and these companies are not even companies, even countries hire consultants to do some research work for them. If they want to find out impact of something, if they want to get into a new business, then they ask consulting companies to do the research work for them, to do the studies for them. So she also acted or worked as a consultant. So that is one of the career options that you have. अगर किसी को बहुत घूमना पसंद है, if someone likes to travel a lot, interact with people a lot, give suggestions a lot, put out various creative aspects into a business a lot, then consulting might be a job for you. Okay, but let me tell you, it has a very bad work-life balance. You need to put in, slog in a lot of hours. So she was telling me she was working for around 14 hours every day for a very long time. So she decided to leave, and many of my friends are also in consulting. I'll also invite someone working at McKinsey or a company like that. Anyway, after that, she is currently working in strategy and transformation. So whenever, see, we need to keep changing ourselves and adapt to the new requirement of the life. As the world changes, we also need to be on our toes and change ourselves accordingly. So these transformations are driven by the companies through these analysts or strategies. So she is currently working for one such transformation, and digital transformation is a part of it because everything is digital now. We want to order a cab, we just open Uber and we book it. Order food, we open Zomato, Swiggy, we order it, and so on and so forth. So similarly, we also need to digitize every business. The way you come here and you mark facial attendance, you attempt exam on Pariksha Graha, and so on. So this is the digital transformation that is happening. So that is also happening across all the companies, and so people like Ilaria are helping companies not only in digital but in general in strategic transformation to achieve those targets. Okay. Next thing, Ila, I would like to ask you is, say, if any of the student in India or any of these students say want to pursue undergrad, postgrad studies in Italy, so what all they need to know? Can you guide them, shed some light on that?
Yes. So, of course, for me was I saw the other point of view, so I might not know all the perks and the information about this, but I think that one point that you should know is something that I've mentioned before, is that the way in which we study is different from what we do here in India. Because the way in which our university works is based on class, like the ones that you attend here. You have to study a lot on books, memorize, and then there is one exam point in which you have to prove that you have studied and understood the concept. So it won't be, the studies personalized and separate throughout projects, different exams, etc. So one shot, you have to make it right. But the good point of Italy, of the way in which we study at university, in most of the university, is that when you are not so sure about the exams that you have done, or even the grades that they give you, you can decide to refuse the grade and take the exam again. So it's you that you decide your mathematical average at the end of the day. Only Bocconi has a different approach, which was the same as Ahmedabad actually, which was based that you could not refuse any grades that you have, but the grades are divided on what do you put,
CGPA,
yes,
the bell curve.
the average, yes, on the average curve, so that all students' grades are spread throughout the curve. Then I think that the other things that you should know is that I was mentioning before is that we are divided by bachelor, which is 3 years, plus 2 years of PG, postgraduate. For us, it's not an MBA. It's a simple master after your bachelor. And my suggestion would be, honestly, if I see the situation of Italian studies, the bachelor, I think, is not worth it to take it already in Italy, because you need to have some solid understanding of how university works, what it means to study at university. Otherwise, the gap of cultural and the way study will be too big from your high school, let's say, situation. But then the master program is very good to take it abroad. I think it gives you this kind of different point of view that Aditya was also mentioning before. And also I think that it really helps people to open their mind and understand where they can adjust their approach. So I think that in terms of language, there won't be many issues if you speak English, because the programs that are offered in English are growing a lot also in Italy. Now almost all universities offer program and postgraduate program, etc. in English, so that won't be an issue. And I think that, yes, that's the main point about coming to Italy. I don't know if you have any specific question.
Specific question as in, is there any exam, the way we have SATs,
Yes.
like that, are there any exams, GRE, GMAT,
Yes.
TOEFL, which are accepted by the universities
Yes.
for say PG studies?
Yes. So it really depends on which university you decide to apply to. In Bocconi, you either took the exams that I did, or you have to submit your GMAT results. So if you are not able to attend the class for some reason, or you already have a good GMAT, you can propose that to the university and they will select you based on the result there. In the other university, it really depends actually on the university, because I feel like Italy is not as unified as India it is under this point of view. So you have some standard exams that you take, you prepare for that, and then you submit these results to university. For us, every university actually do what they want, and so it's difficult to actually say do this and that. But I am quite sure that for master programs, many of them are starting accepting GMAT results or this kind of exams, and I think that they will be less competitive than in India for sure. But there might be some issues related to the number of spots that they reserve in a class for international students, because most of the university set like a maximum amount of students that they take from countries, not countries, but like from European students, international students, Italian students. So that might be the only constraint that you will actually find into entering to a class in master in Italy.
Okay. Thanks, Ida. I'll just share some more information on it. So, for example, GMAT, GRE, TOEFL, IELTS,
Yeah.
these are the examinations which are usually students have to take after their graduation, or probably in the final year of their graduation, to pursue post-graduation outside India. Okay. India has one nation, one examination policy. So, for example, if you want to get into any of the IIM, Indian Institute of Management, say Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Shillong, Lucknow, etc., etc. So all you need to do is appear for one examination and you will be eligible for all these colleges. Okay, you need not apply separately to all these colleges, but that is not how it works in Italy or US or any other country for that matter. All these universities have their own separate set of application, own separate set of examinations and separate set of entrance process. So you need to apply separately to all these universities to get an admission there, may it be for UG or may it be for a PG. Okay, so it's a long process and we can probably have another session on that, but what she is suggesting that it is not exactly recommended that you go there for UG studies because the cultural difference is huge. Because there is a language barrier and not many English speaking people are there. But for PG, you can definitely consider it because Italy is essentially a part of Europe and you can definitely get a lot of exposure there if you go to pursue post graduation there. Okay.
Yes, and I also suggest you one thing that I think is different is that deadlines for application. I think that here it's one shot for everything,
Yeah.
While in Italy, but also in Europe, it's all different. So some university might put a deadline to apply in January, while in Italy, in some universities, September, May. So it changed a lot. And I'm telling you because I missed a spot in a university in north of Europe because I didn't know I had to apply earlier than what it was in Italy. So also take care of deadlines from different colleges because it might change in Europe and it's different university by university.
Right. Thank you, Ilaria. Now coming to the next question, that now that you are working at Petronas in a strategy transformation, how does your day look like? What exactly you do in your day? If you could share in a layman terms, because these are students from 8th standard to 12th standard, they'll probably not understand the business jargon.
Yes.
So as simple as possible in layman, what exactly do you do when you say
Yes.
you are an MBA working in a strategy transformation?
Yes.
role?
So I think that my job and my role is a lot about people. So I don't have to do many daily tasks. I'm not like an accountant that I have to prepare reports and things like that. Mine is more about relations. So when I enter into the office, I usually have 1 hour of checking my emails to understand what is the situations that to handle urgently and the ones that I could handle with some more calm. Then I think my life is a lot about meeting and interacting with people throughout all the days. Because I was saying before, I'm kind of like a mediator against different companies' function and different peoples and teams. So most of my time is really about help people to understand each other and trying to let the other people see what it does. And this is something that I learned to do it also here in India, because as I was saying before, it was difficult for me at the beginning to understand what other students were interacting and what they needed. So my job is really to take people together and help them to understand each other and to, see the overall picture. Because as you can imagine, these people in my organization, they know their job. So for example, if you're studying medical, you know about the science and the body and all these things. While if you study engineering, you might know about, I don't know, maths, physical and so on. And it's difficult to talk to each other. So my role on an everyday basis is to put these kind of people together, understand the point of view of the different people, and let them understand each other. So it's a lot about communication, see the overall picture, because sometimes when you're too focused on a role, on a job, you don't see the overall picture. So I think that my everyday job, it's a lot about being on the phone and meetings, but I think that it's bringing all these points of view together towards a direction. It's my everyday job. So I would say that most of the time I check the emails, understanding which are the issues that people brings to me and if there are any problems. And then I usually organize meetings with some key figures in the company and some teams to discuss together about the project situation, to see how is it going, if there are any issues. Imagine as you're at school, you have your project that you have to conduct, and I just support people to go through this. So mostly would be meeting all day actually as a MBA student, which seems weird, but I see the benefit because many of my colleagues, as I was saying before, I joined 6 months back, but I already see that I am important in every meeting. Like all my colleagues from different teams asked me to take part to key meetings because they want my help to let people talk each other and see together what's the situation and so on. And that's something that you learn in an MBA, or at least in a kind of postgraduate school where they help you to see the overall picture, but also the small point of view. And I guess that's the points that I bring every day at my work.
That's great. I would like to quote an example to support what she said. So basically, her job is to coordinate amongst various parts of the company. Okay. So let me give an example. Let's say there is a ground. You want to build a two-wheeler manufacturing company. Okay. You want to make say Bajaj hai, Hero Honda, etc. You want to put up a manufacturing company, and I'll give you everything. I'll give you resources, people, mechanic who are putting together. I'll give you all the spare parts, nuts, bolts, all the tools that are required, the electricity, the shade. I'll give you everything. I'll say कि हाँ बनाओ अभी, manufacture the two-wheeler. You have everything you need, but that will be a chaotic thing. Why? Because there is no standardization, there is no process. People don't know ki where this thing goes. That guy doesn't know where this is coming from, and so on. There will be a chaos, right? So there are people who are overlooking this and then trying to coordinate amongst all these parts, processes, people, product, etc. Right? And that is the job of a strategy. And identifying the problems. Where exactly are the problems happening? If say there is a defective product coming out, why it is coming out defective? Where is the root cause? Which all verticals which are involved are having these problems, and so on and so forth. So that is how the work goes on in a managerial position. Okay, you are essentially having the bird's eye view to keep a watch on everything and try to identify where do you lack the efficiency, probably bring in the efficiency, or transform the whole things if required completely to put things together and to seamlessly run the job, right? Great. So the next, this is an interesting question, and mainly the whole agenda of organizing such session is to help students like you decide what career to take. Like there are many students who are in 8, 9, 10 standard who are still confused about which profession to pursue. So my question to you is, when did you decide that you want to get into management, and how was that decision making worked out? Like what was the thought process? So this will help them also put into your shoes and probably realize that what would they like to do, whether they would like to pursue MBA or something similar.
Yeah, so actually this is a very difficult question for a person who has studied management and enter into consulting, because these kind of people don't know what they want to do in life. But I think that for me, the first point was to understand what you like. You have a feeling sometimes with the things that you like. At school also, like I knew that I was good with math, but I wasn't really feeling it myself. So I knew that engineering would not be for me, for example. Then I don't know, there are a lot of philosophical studies in Italy, literature and so on. But I felt like I was studying it, but I was not remembering it. So I was like, okay, probably that's not what I wanted to do in life. And then I saw what I was curious about in my studies. What was making me curious about things? And especially the driver that I had throughout all my studies and my career is there something that I've seen that interests me, but I don't understand? And that's where I have to go study. So I mentioned it before. While I was in high school, my history professor, started explaining about inflation. I was not sure what it was, and I was not able to understand it. And so I went home and I started searching online what it was. And I wanted to know more about these things that I didn't understand. And that's why I've decided to study economics. It was interesting me, and I didn't know anything about it, and I want to go deep in that. So I think that at least the bachelor everything was moved by what I don't like to do in school and what I'm curious to know about, even though I don't know about. So also, don't be afraid of explore something that is new or it's unconventional, because it might be something that is good for you. And then I think that for me, I don't know if it's the best answer to give, but it was also a lot about try and error, you know. So I wasn't sure when I started that I liked it, and then I kept searching during my exams something that I was curious about, and that was the driver that brought me to Bocconi. So for example, I was seeing that only studying in books was not interesting for me. I also like some practical approach. That was the experience that I had during my exchange program in bachelor. And that's why I decided to go for Bocconi, because that was the place where I could go for also different kind of approach. So I think that you have to be curious about what you study, and also don't be afraid of starting something that might be completely new to you or something that you don't understand entirely, because at the beginning will be difficult, of course, but if something that is curious for you, you go for it. And then I think that, just to come to the real question, I saw that I like management because I like this approach of putting people together and seeing the overall picture, but being able to see the smallest details as well. I think that while I was studying it, probably I was not able to see this, but throughout my career I was seeing that this was actually what I liked about the job. So unfortunately nobody will tell you, yes, you should go that and you will like it in the future and that will be your job. You will only see after you do it if it's exactly for you. But my suggestion is always pursue something that makes you curious about, because studying is hard, and you have to be curious and interested in what you do. So always also listening to your heart and your instincts somehow.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. I mean, that is the most important part while making a career decision, that pursue or do whatever you feel passionate about, whatever you like, because this is a decision that stays with you throughout your life. You can't go back with a time machine and try to change things कि अभी बायो ले लिया फिर मैथ्स ले लेंगे. You can't do that, right? uh, what she said is how you can go about pursuing is one way of knowing it is कि in addition to what I want to do, what I completely don't want to do, completely get rid of those options. So whatever is left are the things you need to explore, and then try out a few things. In trial and error, we can't exactly take that course and then decide. But what you can effectively do is talk to the people who are working in that area, get their experience, understand challenges faced by them, get to know all the perks that are there, and then make an informed decision because they have already been there, right? So
if I can add to this,
sure.
like unfortunately in Italy for university, at least when I had to enter into bachelor, the supportive system of help you to understand what you want to do was not that developed. So it was really hard for me to understand what one university is and what can bring you, besides of course doctors and these basic studies. But I think that this point was very key for me when I started working, because of course, it's not only about university. When you also start to work, for me it was very important to have this kind of support in understanding what a company does, how is life there, etc. And now that I know how this is important, I've helped many of actually junior students, friends of family, relatives, etc., to understand their university path. So I've supported some friends to do this, because unfortunately Italian system doesn't have this kind of support. But it's very important to speak with people and don't be afraid to ask. I spend so much time on LinkedIn. I don't know if you know the social network, to find professionals with different experience. I randomly add people who were doing some studies or doing some jobs to ask them about the life there. So don't be afraid to ask people about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good point. We probably all are using Instagram. So instead of using Instagram, you can probably switch to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a platform wherein you can get to know who all has done studies from which all colleges. So it's kind of a professional profile that you get to see there. What is the education done by someone? You can find people who has done graduation, post graduation from particular college, universities, etc. You can get to know where exactly they are working, in what profile they are working, what is their job roles, responsibilities, etc. Everything is given there by that person, right? So you get a complete picture key. If someone has done, say, graduation from some IIT, then what they have done, then whether they have done post graduation, whether MTech or MPSC UPSC or MBA or MS, then after that where they are working, in what capacity they are working, and so on. Same goes for MBBS doctor, BAMS, BMS, HMS doctor as well. After they have done their graduation, what they have done, whether they have done MD, etc., what all kind of research papers they have published, everything is given there on that profile. So you can probably visit that, and it's free. So you can explore all those roles and see which role or which career track makes sense for you, right? So that will give you an idea. Just one quick anecdote I'd like to mention, that we had a batch of around 440 odd students at IIM Ahmedabad. Okay, out of that around 230 to 250 students were from IIT. So after they did IIT, they came to IIM Ahmedabad. Okay, out of this 440 odd students, the whole batch, 200 plus students left job within a year. Okay, now let me tell you the packages all of them secured. They are, all of them got around 24 to 26 lakh average package at the start. Okay, right from the placement, the college placement by which Ilaria mentioned. So even after getting such a good package, IT. So let's not try to do that. Whenever the holidays are going on, definitely it's perfectly fine to chill out. But whenever you are studying, you should be studying. Okay. Anyway, yes. Any other questions? Yes. Any yes. Also visiting. Yes.
So, I learned from a different country, so it's been hard for me to get used to the changing culture of the friends of another country. So, I wanted to know how you got used to the change.
To the teaching.
To the change.
Ah.
So there are cultural
Yes,
change,
yes.
there are other changes, the climate change. So how
Yeah.
do you get used to it?
So it's very difficult. Like I will be honest with you. Like when I came to India, I spent 6 months in campus plus 3 in Bombay, and the first 3 that I was here, it was very difficult because, as you can imagine, I was sick most of the time because of food and temperature. So I have been to the hospital. So at some point it was really difficult to me also to focus on studies and to adjust. I think that the most important things for me to adjust to changes is to rely on people, because for me things got easier in India when I start making friends here and creating the support chain that you need to help you. And I think that this is something that I brought also at home in my everyday life, because now I'm working in Italy, in my city, so I don't have all these kind of cultural differences around me, but I still need to have my support chain around me. So my family is really there for me when I need it. My friends who understand my jobs are there for me when I have some doubts about what I'm doing, or when I'm not even sure or I'm happy. Then I have my, how can I say, my free time friends that can help me to chill out. So I think that it's important that you understand how to create this chain, because when you enter into a new country, you can also feel alone because you are away and you don't know anything. So for me, things will change here when I start having friends here and start to understand a bit them and create this support. They were there when I needed something, or to help me to go through, for example, documentation that I might need in a place. So I think that for changes, it's important that you create this supporting environment. And then I think this is important for everything, guys. It's not only for when you enter into a new country or a new culture, but it's important from everything. Like as I was saying before, when I got fired by my company, I really got good support by my family, my friends, and all the, also people who were not my friends. It was very important for me to talk with some former colleagues that I knew that they've been fired or that they went through some similar situation, even if they were not close friends of mine. So I think that to manage changes that happens in your life, or even though they are cultural or disruptive events, it's important to have this kind of support structure around you. So I will say that friends in India really helped me to understand the culture and to be happy in the country as well. Thank you.
One question on their behalf, like many of my students or many of the students whom I counsel, they have kind of fascination about pursuing study abroad.
India is a country that studying, and so I was this kind of situation in which there was my idea of a country, but then I would actually have to go there. So I was really not so sure about accepting the position that they gave me, because there was these differences. I was a lot of afraid about the country, and I applied there with this random idea of, yes, it's nice if I go to India. So this is something that I can relate with. My suggestion would be trying to see different points of view, and especially I know the fact that you see movies and you see life, and it's not always as you imagine it. I think it's important once again to talk with people. If it's possible, find some former students which are Indian. I really suggest you to talk with somebody who has the experience actually to go abroad, for example, not necessarily in the same college because maybe it's difficult, but trying to understand if you have somebody who has been there and can give you some suggestions. And then also maybe I think that would be the suggestion. Of course, you cannot know if a source that you are reading is reliable or not about campus, etc. Because of course everybody can write anything they want. But I suggest you to talk with people again. I think it's the best suggestion I can give.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Just feel free to ask anything. किसी को ये सवाल नहीं आया कितने पैसे कमा लेते हैं MBA करके? Anyone? So the question that I was asking is कि any MBA who has say done a dual degree or probably working in this role, ballpark how much money they would be making?
Yeah. So I think that the differences are a lot based on the country in which you are, because I don't know if they translate them in rupees, so you might help me.
Yeah, sure.
But let's say that I will tell you about the Italian situation, because Indian situation I don't know much about how it is, so I think Sumit can integrate that. So for us, I think that the university where you come makes the difference, but not so much. So what I saw in India is that based on the college that you went and where you attend, you get the different salaries based on the college that you attend. In Italy, it's not that much like that. It's more about the job that you get in. And the point is that the university that you take supports you in getting in this role. Let me explain you better what I mean. It is easier for a Bocconi student to enter into a strategy consultant role that was, for example, for one of my colleagues from Bachelor University in my hometown. So it's not a lot about the university that you have done, but it's like an enabler to help you to get this kind of job. So I realized that it's the job that gives money and not the place where you have come. But given that, what I see is that given I started in consulting, which it's not much, I think it's the 30,000 euros, the entry package plus bonus,
Okay.
which is 20% of something.
Around 26 lakhs in
Yeah.
India, around 26, 27 lakhs in
So
India.
that was the starting point, which was very low. But then in consulting, it take a spike. So in 2 years, I was getting 45,000 euros plus
Okay.
bonus.
Okay. Which is around 41 lakhs
Yes.
Indian rupees.
Yes. And the good point is that when I started in that industry and I got this package with me, I keep carrying it in my job afterwards. So I'm aware that, for example, in the job I am right now, even I was taking this money in my previous company, they could not offer me less than what I had before, because of course, if you already have a certain amount of salary, they won't give you less. So I know, I'm well aware that in the company I am right now, I'm earning more than many of my colleagues, just because I gained this good spot at the beginning, this good package at the beginning, and that's why they had to give me more because I was coming with this good package. So unfortunately here works differently because I know that the college where you enter has an impact on the salary that they give you. But yes, you have to think that in Italy life is much more expensive than here. So for example, like rent is 1,000 euros per month, which is
90,000.
Yeah,
90,000 rupees. So that's the rent.
minimum. That's really just for 1 month, and it's still cheap place
वाकड़
for
के कंपैरिजन में भी बहुत ज़्यादा है.
South Bombay maybe. It's,
Yeah, maybe South Bombay. Yes.
Yes. And life is expensive there. So my salary is not as huge as it might have been if I stayed in India as an MBA student. I realize that, but I know that I'm earning much than the average of Italian salary. Like the
Average people.
people
It's more
salary.
than average.
Yes, it's almost double of what average families earn. So it still gives you a lot of,
Disposable income.
yes.
And savings, etc.
Yes.
It's a good point. So what she's saying is, in India, how it works is why everyone is seeking to get into IITs is because the better the college that you get, the better the package that you get at the end of it. In Italy, it doesn't work that way. You can get into any role from any university, and that's why everyone is, this sought after colleges, IITs, triple IITs, NITs, COET, etc. are the colleges. The reason is that, okay, that's one. Second thing is that the better the package you start with, the better the growth you get. For example, if I start with, say, let's take an example of 10 lakh rupees at the end. Those who have studied compound interest in mathematics, if you try to do compounding, the next year the package at 10% increment will be 11 lakh. The next year it will be 12.1. The next year it will be, so it will exponentially increase, and merely in 6 to 7 years the salary will get double with just 10% increment. Okay, and that's like more of a standard these days. So the better the start is, the better the growth you will get. That's essentially the idea, because obviously if I am switching my job, if my current package is X, definitely they will have to offer me X plus Y, otherwise I will not join there, right? So with that in mind, the effort should be that we get a good undergrad college here in India so that you can start off better. Now another thing that she mentioned, there is something called as a purchase power parity. In two countries, whatever, so here the vada pav will be for 15-20 rupees, there the vada pav will cost 150 to 200 rupees, right? So it does not directly reflect to ki if I am getting 1 crore package outside India, then my saving will be huge. It's not necessarily pro rata. The reason for that is the expenses also becomes multifold, right? तो ये जो IIT का पैकेजेस है 1 करोड़ मिला उसको पैकेज, उसको बोला कौन सी कंट्री में मिला है, सबसे पहले वो बताओ, वो कंट्री का परचेस पावर पैरिटी क्या है वो बताओ, फिर उसके बाद मैं डिसाइड करूँगा कि एक्सक्लेम करना है कि नहीं, अरे हाँ बड़ी बात हो गई. It works like that. There is an interesting thing I would like to just add. There is something called as a Mac Burger Index.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's a very interesting thing. आपने सबने मैकडोनल्ड खाया है, मैकडोनल्ड बर्गर, राइट? So McDonald burger has a specific quality that you eat that burger in India or you eat that burger in US, Europe, any country you go, the ingredients taste exactly the same. The amount of sesame seeds they use, the size of the burger, the size of tikki, the amount of sauce they use, the amount of all the ingredients which is put inside they use, everything is same. So what they do is, how much money do I need to make this Mac burger in India versus how much money do I need to make this burger in US versus in Europe, Australia and other countries. When you compare these figures, you get to know about the purchase power parity ki how much inflation or how much महंगाई is there in other countries, right? Because it's exactly the same. ठीक है? So with that is, I mean, rent is one of the major expenses that we have in day-to-day life, and that's what we said here. Usually for a 2 BHK, the rent is around 25k. For an unfurnished flat, there it is around 90k to 1 lakh, and that is a bare minimum. So that's where it starts.
It came to my mind that this is probably something that you have to consider if you want to study abroad, especially in a country like US or in Europe, because life there is much more expensive than it is here. So you have to consider that it's a huge investment and that you will have to spend a lot. So also that when you do this kind of studies, you also have to discuss about these points with people. So ask them to help you to understand what is the life there, how much it costs. Because for example, northern countries in Europe are much more expensive than it is Italy. And also within Italy there are differences. So Milan is crazy expensive, but my hometown, which is a well-renowned study for engineering, life is much cheaper. So you will have to understand all these differences. So also not only ask about studies, but also about life. What you need to do to enter to the country, what's the currency, how it is going, if it's safe, etc., etc. So all these kind of things that we haven't discussed before, but they are part of an exchange experience that we have to understand before undertaking it.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Have you done any specialization after doing MBA?
So yes, that's a good point, because actually at some point in my life when I got fired and I was looking for a new job, I was rethinking of my studying path, and at some point I was thinking to actually take a year gap and do a master program in something very specific, because I don't know how much you know about management, but usually management studies are very general. As I was saying before, they give you understanding of how to get the overall picture, etc. But it's not specific. Most of the jobs that I was looking and they were available for me, they were very specific. So they would ask me for, some kind of background or specific marketing competencies or some specific, computer that I didn't have. So I thought about taking a specific course, but then I realized that was something that I didn't want. I wanted my career to be broad and to be the role that I wanted is more open. So I wanted to stick to management. So no, I did not take in it, but this is a good point that you will at some point think in your life. Probably that was something that I should have thought after my bachelor, because my bachelor was in management, let's say, and then I did the master program again in management. So the topics were the same, the way in which I studied them were a little bit different, But at some point I thought that my master program should be a little bit more specified. Not much, unless you have something that you are passionate about and you know that you want to do that in life. But yeah, I thought about being more specialized, but of course I cannot go back in time and change what I've chosen. And I thought about it in this specific, like 6 months back. I was thinking about taking, a marketing master of 1 year just to specialize a bit more. But then a job that was exactly what I wanted came, so of course I decided not to do. And also my suggestion is trying to understand the value of this kind of specialized course in the country. Because for example, in my situation, I talked with a job recruiter, so some people who help to match together people who look for a job and companies that are looking for people. And she was telling me that actually this kind of 1 year programs that Italy offer, not master, but I don't know what to call them, it's like teaching programs for 1 year. They are not MBA, it's just 1 year of studies. They are not so they are not seen so valuable in the market as I thought. So she suggested me to do maybe other kind of things, but she was saying maybe don't waste a year in doing this because the market won't see it as good as you think it's it. So also try to understand if specialization is something like further specialization during your studies is something that the job market is looking, or it's just something that is there for I don't know how to say, because somebody invented the school and wants to take it. Try to understand the real values of the things that you are doing.
I hope that answered your question, Ashok.
So was it harder to climb the corporate ladder without the specialization, or is it the same?
I think that the point is that usually, I don't know how to say, my role is very broad and general. So of course, we are a plant-based company. So we have plants and we have also offices that do, office job. So for me, it was very difficult to go into the technical part of the business because I was understanding the commercial point of view, how you sell the product and all these things. But it was very hard for me to understand the production part. So I think that at least for my role, it wasn't required that I know the singular details because every job description has a role. So I told them I know nothing about production and plants and factories, and they told me, yes, it's okay, you will learn the basics, that will be enough because there will be people who are specialized in that. Your role will just be different. So I think that read very well the job description before you apply, and trying to also, my suggestion for future jobs is when you put the question in the right way, and if you really want the job, honestly, I've also not hidden things, but I present myself as the perfect candidate. But my suggestion is also try to understand through questions if anything that may be missing your CV is required there, because at the end of the day you have to do the job, and if you miss something you can pretend that you can fake that you have it, but you won't be able to do the job and then it would be bad. So if there's something that scares you about job description, you should not be afraid to ask some clarification questions there.
So I just like to add, IIM Ahmedabad or in general like top IIMs, how it works is there is no specialization at all. In IIMs there is no specialization. How it works is in first year is common for all of them. Second year you are asked to choose electives, and the electives are in the tune of 150, 160 plus electives are floated. Okay, out of this 150, 160 electives, you need to choose which all 7-8 electives you want. So your preferences decide where is your inclination, whether it is in operations, supply chain management, marketing, sales, finance, corporate banking, investment banking, private equity, etc., etc. Because that is a signaling factor. Hey, I have taken these electives, I am interested in your role. And the another thing Ila mentioned is that when you go for the interview, just the way they are selecting you, they are identifying where you are the right fit. You also should able to identify whether the company is right fit for you, because it's a win-win. Okay, it's not essentially the market wherein in India also, even though there are layoffs which are happened, company is trying to select you, whether they want you, you also should try to decide whether I want this company or not. If you are really bright, if you are really good, then I'm sure there are numerous options which are available out there. At IIM Ahmedabad, I'm sure there are 120 plus companies visited for our final placement only for merely 440 students, and every company was willing to take 7-8 people. So the placement capacity was around 800. So many students had more than one offer on their hand. So it is possible. Okay, when you are in a prestigious institute, more than one company offering you job is possible. You need to be in position where you need to decide which one you want and which one you would like to go ahead with. Right? Yes. If there are any other questions, we'll take a last question, else we'll conclude. No questions? Any online questions, please? Okay. I think that let's conclude the session. It was good, short, crisp session. I hope that you guys got to learn something new about the international exchange student policy, the MBA program, and the perks and the challenges in this journey. I would like to thank you guys for coming at such odd time. It's summer, I know, and you come at the peak hour. And thanks, Ela. She has traveled all the way from Italy. She was here for one of my seniors' wedding, and I took this opportunity to help you guys interact with them. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the better experience to study in India or in abroad?
Which was the better experience to study in India or in Italy?
You cannot compare them, of course. They were so different. I think that India also helped me a lot personally to grow as a person because I've been at home a lot, and the experience here was more about growing. So I think you cannot compare the two experiences because they are too different. Of course, studying at home gave me some sense of what I would need in Italy, in a job in Italy, because of course it's more related to the country and to what the life in the country is. But in India, as I was saying, it gave me really something that I'm using in my everyday job, because all the negotiation skills, ability to talk with different people, etc. I really gained it in India, that I needed to understand how to interact with a different culture. And this is something that I brought in my current job. So I cannot say what is better because, this is not the experience that I love, but I think that each of it gave me something different that enriched my profile, and that's also something that in the job market out there makes my profile so special. So during many interviews they have asked me about India, why India, what you have learned there, what you like, how was life. So I think that they both enrich me in a different way, I would say.
Thank you. I think with that, let's call this session to the end. Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you guys
Thank you.
for having me. It was
Yeah.
nice to interact with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you want to have any personal interaction,